Hey, you guys, welcome. We're live on Facebook, and and we had some technical difficulties, but we're here, and it doesn't matter because there's like people in the room, which is so cool. What are you eating? Is it chocolate? Oh my gosh! We should put that in a bowl so there's. Okay, we're here, and we're going to be here for the next little bit, and we're going to talk about awakening, awareness, consciousness, and we're going to. I think we're going to maybe go down some roads that. It's interesting that it seems so simple to me now, but for years I couldn't hear when people were talking about the things that we're going to talk about tonight. I thought I knew what they were saying. I was certain that I knew what they were saying, but I now know that I didn't know what they were saying. And that looks good. I might have a piece of chocolate. So I guess that first of all, what oh, thank you. We were going to be on Zoom tonight, but this is not going to work because for some reason or other, my little camera on my old MacBook, which is really old, didn't work for us. So we're going to do this strictly Facebook Live, and we'll repost later on YouTube and all that. So we got people handing out treats. I know, we should have made popcorn, eh? I know. I feel left out, but I'm sure they'll come my way. Oh, well, those. No, I can't have that right now. So it seems to me that people who are interested in what we're doing are people who are kind of, would classify themselves as on a spiritual search or spiritual students. And and I for years I thought of myself as a seeker, and and, and almost the term by itself prevented the awakening, because the term seems to give us the idea that the thing that we're looking for is outside of us. And so if we're looking for this thing, this awakening, this enlightenment, or what have you, and all the indications are that somehow it's outside of us, even though the teachers that I spent time with, many of them, and the books that I read, many of them told me over and over again that it wasn't outside of me, that it wasn't separate from me. I was with a fella, Paul Lowe, for like 14 years, that I followed him around the planet, and Paul said over and over and over and over and over and over again, be here now. And I would say, yeah. Okay, got it. What's next? And because I kept thinking that door's not open, is it? Okay. I kept thinking there was something for me to do, and that I would, if I did it, I would get it. And now when I look back, I was even pushy, trying to, to get whatever it was that everybody or some folks seemed to have, and actually Paul was the only one that seemed to have it, but still, I was often, like Ram Dass said, he ran around for quite a few years asking if people knew what was going on here. And he would, within minutes he'd realize that they didn't. They didn't. They hadn't kind of figured it out. They were still struggling with what we call duality. But even though I could speak about it, I didn't get it. I didn't get that that I perceived everything through my mind, and in perceiving it through my mind, it went through a screen of judgment, and the screen of judgment was on right or wrong, good or bad, so. And the screen, for me in particular, was developed. The texture of my screen was developed by the conditioning that I got as a youth, and so I could tell in a minute whether I liked you or not, or whether you're a good person or not, or but very quietly, because I wouldn't want anybody to know that I had a judgment, or whether you would like me or not, or whether where we were in the social scheme of things. This is all in like in rapid fire, instantaneously almost. Whether I would fit in with your community or not, and I became pretty good at fitting in a lot of communities, because I had a multifaceted persona. And is anybody relating to this? Yes, and so what I finally got was that over the years, what I tried to do actually was change my the screen, change the judgment, change the I was looking at things that happened with my mother when I was 3, or or trying to work on my trauma, or trying to heal the story in hopes that I would somehow make the screen that I saw everything through not so difficult to live with, and I want you to know I did a lot of different things: affirmations, vision boards. I did all the courses. I mean, you name it. All the weekend retreats. I mean, I read books and books and books and books and books, trying to, everything from, the old Og Mandino years ago, which was and Napoleon Hill, think and grow rich, okay? But the thinking was going through my screen, So I actually, though, got to a place where I could at least function. Because in my early years, for me, in my early years, I felt so out of place in this in the world, that the only time I felt pretty comfortable is if I was drinking or drugging, and then I fit in, I could dance and fight, and, I was popular in my own mind, and so that's, started for me really quite young, when I discovered that when I did that, I wasn't, because the judgments for me that were the most predominant were the ones on myself. My mind had a voice of its own. Anybody familiar with the voice and I didn't realize that I could, tell him to fuck off. I just didn't realize that, because he was saying things like, "You're not good enough, you're not very smart, you don't fit in, there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with your family, we don't fit in this community." I mean, it had a whole list of story on me as a kid, and so when I discovered drugs and alcohol, it quieted that, right? And so, but I'm very fortunate that, somewhere only after, quite young, in my 20s, I realized that was killing me, and some, circumstance made it so that I really, really had to find a solution to the drug and alcohol thing, and I recognized that the solution was a spiritual solution, had to be, because I couldn't quit that. I got to a place where I'd gotten into it and I couldn't get out of it. Actually, from day one, I drank or used like an addict or an alcoholic. I didn't. So, but it's interesting because I never wanted to give up running the show. If some of you are familiar with the 12-step program, that's step one. And it's funny because I've been clean and sober almost 40 years, but I never wanted to really give up running the show. I wanted to continue to manage my life, and I didn't realize that if I were to truly surrender, that would be awakening. I could let go of my mind. I could let go of my thinking. I could see that it wasn't my friend. That I could, imagine I was talking to somebody the other day and said, imagine we had a girlfriend. Was it us we were talking about the other day? Yeah. Imagine if you had a girlfriend who was always telling you that you weren't good enough. That, you can't try that. That'll never work. You can, don't go. Those people don't like you. Don't go there. Imagine if you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend that, or a husband or a wife that did those things. Eventually you'd have to let them go, wouldn't you? You'd say, well, there's a lot of things I like about, but I got it. But so my mind was telling me that my whole life, and at different levels, right? And sometimes I could kind of power through it. I could really paint a big story and live in that visualization, and with a white heat of desire, I could, and I did all that. I went to see Tony Robbins. God bless Tony. So something had to happen. And all this time, even though I've tried all those things, I recognized that there was something else happening, and that I could become conscious. There was a separate me, if you would, in here, that was watching your thoughts, watching life without judgment. It was just kind of just watching, and so for me, it's funny that because all these years I learned the language, and I actually used to talk about, awakening and try to help people to find it when I hadn't found it myself. And so my story simply is that last year I went to do an enlightenment intensive with Trevor Thibodeau. And in the intensive, what happened was, because it's called a Satori can happen. It's called a Satori experience. And Trevor leads a group where we ask a question which is called a Zen koan. And the question that one of the questions that Trevor and his people that work with him focus on is, tell me who you are. Is that the question? Tell me who you are. And Toby's here tonight, and she was with me in that thing. And we had this. It's a 3-day thing, like 12 hours a day or more, isn't it? Like 16 hours a day? Yeah. Kathy was there too, yeah. And we don't do anything else. They take away your keys and your phone and books. You don't bring books. Nothing to occupy or stimulate the mind. And I have a little backstory on that. I just want to tell you that I first did this in 1994, and I was physically ill. A fella came, we were in Bali, I was with Paul in a group, and a guy came to lead this exercise for a day. And about a third of the day went by, and my body just rejected it. It was just, and I know now that ego has the ability to make me sick. And that can be part of our story, oh, poor me, I'm not very well, my body's not very good, and it can be part of our story that keeps us, that because we plan these stories, whether consciously or unconsciously, so that we can kind of get through life, and because we think we're here on our own, in a way. We think we're here in our persona. And so I remember that day, my ego wanted to have nothing to do with this exercise. It was like I physically was ill and I had to crawl out of this room. And I didn't finish. And I thought, there's no friggin' way I'm ever doing that again. 94. And I swore it. No way. Am I ever going back to that exercise again? And so last year, business was closed, and my son Regan and I were sitting one night talking, and he said, well, what are you going to do, Dad? He said, I think you need something to just shake you up. It's my son, he's like 26 or 27 at the time, and I knew. I was sitting in the car, we were sitting in the parking lot at Earl's, one of those weld spot moments, I knew. And I said, well, Trevor Thibodeau's doing the Satori experience. And he said, yes, that's it. And I was like, no friggin' way. No way. I'm going to go do that. Because it's like, I got sick the last time. My ego said, no, I'm not going there. Because ego actually doesn't want, it's protecting itself. Like, ego, the persona is protecting itself. It wants to continue to run the show, even if it kills me. Right? Even, if we're pushing shopping carts, it's okay as long as, and like the girlfriend, who, the boyfriend who comes back after you've thrown them out and they say, I'll be different this time. I'll be different. It'll work. I'll be okay. I'll behave. We're on the same team. Look, you've got this far together, right? And so I was listening to that voice saying, no way. But something about sitting there with my son, it's hard for me to it was very hard for ego even to say, no, I can't do that, I'm afraid. Right? Because ego wants to look good in front of my son. Right? So so I said, okay, I'll go. It was, I'll do it. And I went and like day 2, towards the end of day 2, and this opening happened. And I realized as it happened that it had happened many times before. in group and in experiences that I've been on and breath work and I'd felt it before, but I didn't really get, because I'd always associated it with drugs, experiences that were drug related, because it was like I realized that there was, I was one with everything, and that there was no separation, and it was amazing, and so that's the spot. And for me, since it's funny how life, will support us once we start to go in that direction, really seriously go in that direction. And for me, what happened was a friend of mine was then, a couple of months later, was in India. I was going to India, actually. Adrian, my friend Adrian Bowley, was going to India, and he said, why don't you come? He was going to Rishikesh to be with Mooji. And so this is kind of my story of awakening. But, he was there, and I didn't go, but Mooji was playing his whole satsang live. The whole thing was live, and I started watching. And I had watched him before when I was in a bit of a different state, and I thought, this guy's, he's got dreads. I don't like dreads. He's Jamaican. I had a whole lot of judgments on Mooji. But when I saw him after having had, and this experience that I'd had in the fall, it was different. I realized right away that, that he was 12-stepping us all. And he really, and I'll go into that little depth, but he really has, he just guides people into this awakened state. And so not through doing anything really, but just letting everything go, and recognize that our natural state is a state of unconditional love, is a state of bliss. And because of our conditioning, when you see a baby, how many, we've all seen babies that are like an hour old, or even, I've delivered a couple, or I was part of it. But, they're like, oh my God, you can see, and feel the presence of love, of oneness, of God, of whatever we want to call it. And the trouble with language is that we don't know, it's hard to describe. It's almost impossible to talk about, because as soon as I call this thing something, it separates us. So if I talk about God or infinite intelligence, it's a concept. It's not what it really is. It's a concept, and so I'm in the. A lot of you know that I'm in recovery, and in the big book of AA, Bill put 16 different concepts in the book, but one of the things that he said that was the most magical thing, I think, that he said maybe in the whole book, was that because we all have this thing, and we're not looking for a new doctrine or a new thing to believe in, because believing in something isn't what I'm talking about. It's not what I'm talking about. Believing in something actually keeps us from this experience of oneness, because we're stuck in a belief. But he said in We Agnostics, a chapter, he said, God either is or he isn't. Either he's everything or he's nothing. And that word, everything, what does that mean? Everything. If he's everything, then I am that. And this idea of who I thought I was keeping me, or not keeping this from experiencing or realizing that. So I know I promised we're going to meditate, but I just wanted to share this. That, this whole thing has evolved in more in the last little while. As I listened to Mooji, I got a little, I can be obsessive. Um, and so sometimes, I've been listening a couple hours a day. And because over and over again, he takes me to that place because my ego will creep in. This ego, this whatever it is, this, this mind will creep in and start with, you, everything, the stories, right? You're too old, you're not, what are you going to do for money? All the complaint stuff, because ego likes to complain, right? It likes to judge and it likes to complain. And this, what we're doing right now, it has a heyday with this. It says, who do you think you are? what are you doing? So, does, I was talking to a man the other day and I asked him, because he was really deep in his thoughts, and I said, do you realize that you're not your thoughts? And because it's a key piece. It's like without that piece, there is, where do we go from there? If we're really still in this area that we're believing what the mind is saying about us, and it doesn't matter whether the mind is saying you're the greatest, you're the best, you're a stud, and right? Ego loves that. Yeah, I'm a stud, man. I'm a stud. Or if it's saying you're the lousiest shit on the planet, you never, you can't. Relationships don't work for you. Are you kidding? Who do you think you are? You're still dealing with your mum stuff. It's never going to end. And it's all ego. It's all the conversation that happens. And so if we see it and become aware or conscious of the fact that it's not true, it's not us, it just isn't, it's bullshit. Then we bring presence into the moment. And for me, presence, now, and God are the same thing. And so when my mind is saying, who do you think you are? And I can look at it and say, well, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not, because my mind wants us to say, well, I'm this or I'm that. And as soon as I identify myself as this or that, I'm again separate from this. And so, Ram Dass said, becoming nobody. Letting go of all of the concepts, all of the beliefs, all of the ideas of who we think we are. It's freedom. It's not the road to freedom, it is freedom. Ego likes to say, oh no, it's the road to freedom. But it is actually, it's the gift. And in our 12-step program, it actually, the promises are promises of freedom. We come to rely on the moment, God consciousness, and it's hard not to call it something. We're a little hamstrung by language, but it's hard not to call it something. And the trick, though, is when we call it something, not to get attached. Again, just to let it go. It's like, okay, it is what it is. Let's be here now. And when I'm here now, in this moment, whether it's in the shower or right here, I feel this. It's just, I don't even know if I can say that I feel it. I am this. And So that was the long road to why should we meditate. And you know, one of the things that happens for us, I think, when we meditate is that we get to watch you know, the thoughts. We get to see that we're not that. Because a description of what that is very short. But a description of what is not that is huge. You know, we can talk all day about what that isn't, you know, that, so, oh, yeah, I don't know if that says it. Anybody have anything to add to that? That was kind of a bit of a, yeah.
Remember that you got quite sick on the second day?
No.
Sick on the second day.
Yeah. My friend Toby said that on the second day of the Enlightenment Intensive. Huh? Oh yes, I know. Yeah, yeah. Through the years, I remember I was with a fellow for a long time who was an amazing teacher. His name was Hub Gray. Hub was here in town, and he'd spent a lot of years with the Big M Maharishi. It started the Transcendental Meditation. He was the you know, they used to call him the Big M, and Hub had been many years with, and so I didn't know it then. I was quite young. I was in my 30s, and we go on weekend workshops, you know, and so something in me really wanted this. But and I would sleep. You know, we'd be in group room, and I was there with my lovely wife at the time, Sheila, and I would just, my body would just reject. You know, it was how it kept itself from taking this in. And although I think, though, that something was happening, even though I was sleeping. And yes, I, you know, we'll do that. Ego will say, you know, no way, I'm not taking, you know, I don't want this. And it'll defend itself. Barry, do you have any stories of ego defending itself?
It happens all the time. Yeah, it's constant. Yeah. Yeah, as soon as the brain goes, it's defending itself, I find.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's like, so it's not really like a girlfriend. It's more like, okay, it's a long-term committed relationship, and we can't get rid of it really. We can just kind of say no. You know, we just, right? It's like it's always going to be there. It's always part of the human psyche, is this voice that says, you know, who do you think you are? In some ways, you know, and even I was watching Muji the other day, and somebody was speaking, and they said they were talking about having feelings. You know, a feeling. They were having you know, feelings like Mad Glad's had. And then they said, but, you know, you don't have feelings, do you? And he said, yeah, of course I have feelings. He said, the only difference between me and you is that I don't chase after them. You know, I don't own them. I don't attach to them. I don't, you know, they come. I feel sad. Yes, you know, and I just, it's there. It's in the psyche, and so we have sometimes this illusion of what awakening looks like, that we're going to be, you know, just happy, joyous, and free all the time, and I laugh because in the 12-step, the more I've studied, the more I realize that all of this, the depth of this, is in the process of the 12 steps. It's like Bill fucking nailed it. He nailed it, And as we go through that process, and you know, especially 10, 11, and 12, you know, we keep ourselves clean by doing 10 on a regular basis, and with 10, step 10 is making amends as we go and cleaning up stuff on a daily basis. And, you know, we've let go of a lot of the things in our past, the bigger things in the past where we messed up with whoever we messed up with, past relationships, money, all kinds of things. And we it's like pulling these chains off, you know, and then as we float up, like Dr. David Hawkins, if you haven't read Hawkins, read Hawkins. Hawkins is amazing because Hawkins, you know, really says that through the process of letting go, which is what happens in 4 and 5, we're letting go of all of this stuff. We're letting go of our anger and our fear and our selfishness, and which is all part of the ego. As part of letting go, we're actually lifted up. We're like a cork. So we think, though, ego says, no, you got to work to get up there. And the teachers all say, no, actually, just let go of all of the attachment, let go of the judgment, let go of the fear. You know, how do we let go of the fear on a daily basis? We ask. When it comes in, we ask. We say, you know, take away my fear. Show me what you have me to be. And through service and helping others and you know, actually showing our love, or love is an action word. It's a verb, you know, as well as a noun. But you know, through service, we are released of things, and you know, so we go from being in fear. And fear is always self-centered, right? Fear is always, you know, what about me? What am I gonna, you know, not get, or what am I gonna lose? So we let go of the fear, and we literally, if you read Hawkins, he read a book called Letting Go, and Hawkins, you know, describes it so well that we're lifted up. We come into our natural state, and you've read all Hawkins stuff, haven't you?
Have you?
Hmm.
Yeah, 3 or 4 of them. Books, yeah.
Yeah, has anybody else read Hawkins? Have you? Kathy's read Hawkins, and Hawkins was in recovery. You know, you knew that, right? He was in recovery, and he wrote, and he ran a treatment center. He was the, you know, also kind of the head of the psychiatric, you know, the American Psychiatric Society. The man had credentials up the yin yang, right? He really was but he was in recovery, and he recognized that that what we had in that program was you know, an amazing pathway to awakening, and his book Letting Go basically said, as we let go, we float up, we're lifted up from, and he did he built a scale, and you have to kind of read it because I can't describe it the way that I'd like to, but his scale was from like 0 to 1,000, and 1,000 on his scale was Christ consciousness, and which is, you know, according to him, unattainable in the human form, but he suggested that if we could get into the 500s in his scale, which was unconditional love, 540, that was possible, but not with judgment. Judgment is all we've got, you know, to really get that we don't know from our ego. We don't know. We to surrender knowing, and so Hawkins did a really great job of describing what happens. And Mooji says the most important thing we can do for our friends and family and the planet is to do this work. Because as we're lifted up, as we, you know, most of us have to hurt like MFs, mofos. We all mofo. We got to hurt like mofos to let go of stuff, right? You know, we don't want to let go of it if it's working for us. It's working, man. I'm okay. You know, and Mooji tells a story. I gotta just tell you. I heard it today. He was living in London, and he had an answering machine in his phone in the apartment, and he came back, and this guy called 3 times and left 3 messages, Muji, you know, you got to help me. You got to help me. I'm dying. I'm dying. You got to help me. I'll be your devotee. I'm gonna come and I'll be, you know, I'll be your best student. You know, and the guy came, you know, and every day for like 3 weeks he was there, you know, and listening to Muji's talking and his, he was doing satsang and then he stopped coming. And about a week went by and he saw him on the street. He said, "What happened? You were like, you know, this was the most important thing in your life." "Oh," he said, "Muji, how you doing?" He said, "Well, my girlfriend came back." "I'm okay." And so, I mean, that's what happens. Eh? We get what we think we want, you know, which is just candy compared to the main course, you know, and we have a, yeah, I mean, all of that's beautiful. I mean, having stuff and having relationships and having, you know, being in those things are all amazing, but if we're on this path, it can't really be a substitute, you know, and like it was like drugs and alcohol were for me, you know. I did relationships the same way. I did relationships the same way for years. Because if I could be with somebody, I didn't have to feel, or I could feel the high, you know, the adrenaline or the chemicals of the relating, you know, and you know, and I would burn through them, and you know, sorry about that. I didn't know, you know, we don't know, because, you know, we think we're going to find it somewhere, you know. Travel, you know, thank God for travel, because travel's the answer, right? If I travel enough, then I, you know, experiences and achievements and all the things that we do to try to not feel or be here now, you know, in accomplishments. Yeah.
As you're speaking, I'm putting thoughts together, and we're talking about letting go and surrendering, and which is the ticket to lifting up into that higher state, right? And I'm thinking, how do we do that? We do it through love, right? Through unconditional love. That's what my experiences have been.
So-
Because when I'm carrying something, if I'm carrying a resentment,
Yeah.
it's keeping me down.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think my way out of it. I can't.
Mm-mm.
I've got to love,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what brings me out of it.
Well, you know what? In the book, the big book, what's great is when I have resentment, he actually puts a prayer in there. And it's my experience that prayer actually brings us into the moment. So, you know, the prayers, you know, God forgive me for being angry, or show me how I can be helpful in this situation. It's just a short little prayer. It's like, oh. And so when I'm, you know, pissed at my goddamn computer, I have to say, God. You know, and it's just, and then it's gone. You know, it's like, oh, I know. I said I was going to get another one. I know it's coming. Okay, yeah, I hear you. You know, and I don't know if you guys would relate to this, but sometimes I tighten up a little bit around money. Does anybody relate to that? You know, like, I don't spend money on a computer. You know, because there's this old belief that there's limited resources. Do you know what I mean? It's like this old belief that money doesn't grow on trees. Anybody ever had a parent that said that? Money doesn't grow on trees, you know? And so that was pounded into the old psyche, right? And so I can see, I see the connection that So yeah, so we're going to get a new computer and let go of the stuff around but yes, prayer brings us into the moment, doesn't it? You know, when we're angry, when we're in prayer and love, the moment is love. The moment is love. The moment is God. Everything is love. Yeah, beautiful. I don't know if that's helpful, but you know, I don't know. Hey, Dan McAfee. Hey, buddy, I'm glad you're here. Chris Combs. You guys, look at you all. Your names are all there. I don't know. I can never tell. All the names come up, but I don't know if they stayed. There'll be a questionnaire after. So, thoughts?
Like, what about physical pain? Because I have a hard time, like, letting go when I'm suffering in pain. And I've had pain for, like, 13 years now. And like I said, I tried this, I tried that, I go to here, I go there. But, like, when it comes to physical pain, when it's, like, so on, it's very hard to just be like, oh, I'm just going to let that go. You know, like, I find it, I get stuck on that one. Because, like, I have chronic pain a lot. So that's my hardest one. But, like, I just try to be in the moment and feel it. Let myself like surrender to it. I try all those things, but it's like painful sometimes. So I like want that answer of like just allowing it, but it's sometimes bad.
Can I tell you what's coming? A couple of things. One is that, you know, is of course what you just said, you know, to be present, to really be there with it, feel it, you know, and the other is to ask, what's the body saying? You know, is there anything that you're holding or resisting? And really ask with an openness to see in prayer. Say, okay, show me, what am I missing? Am I missing something? Is there something going on that I can't see? And all of the answers are here. You know, all the questions are here too, but all of the answers are here. And so it you know, it's like I used to tell my kids it was like connecting to the mainframe when we had mainframes. Now it's the cloud, right? And you know, and so we plug in, and so, you know, I mean, like this, my little computer has lots of resources, but when I plug it into the cloud, it has almost infinite resources now, you know. And so the same, I think, with us. We're you know, separate, and so yeah, that's my thought, is that, you know, that it's, you know, it's there, and it's maybe, and I don't know that, but it may be a resistance, maybe something that still wants to come out, that, you know, a story, a concept about ourselves. I mean, what are we but just a whole bag of stories, you know, a bag of beliefs, a bag of concepts, a bag of tales about ourselves, you know. And the process that we talk about, the Enlightenment Intensive, the question is, tell me who you are. And days of barfing out those stories, literally sometimes, right? And then we realize, you know, the possibility is to realize that we're not, and that we are one with this. And I know Hawkins, when he was about 50, had so many things wrong with him. Remember that, those stories? Yeah, he had like a gout, and he had like he had so many things physically wrong with him that his friends were taking bets on whether he would live to, you know, see 53. And And he explains in one of his books how he brought energy into each one of those things, and they all, every single one of them healed themselves. Quite a story, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I liked the one about his eyesight.
Yes.
He just took his glasses off and
He was like Magoo. He tells his story. Do you guys remember Magoo? You got to be dated to remember Magoo. But do you remember Magoo? A little bit. And Magoo was this, this guy who was, basically, an older guy. He was blind and almost blind, and he was a cartoon character. He had the big glasses, and he was always bumping into shit, right, so that story, Hawkins was in a lecture, and he was telling the class that what he had done with all of these ailments, or he was giving a public talk or whatever, and somebody said, "Well, what about your glasses?" And he was like, "I never thought of that." He just had accepted that his eyes had degenerated with age, and that was just going to be it. And he tells the story of driving totally unsafe, literally not being able to see, and his eyesight came back. Yeah, his eyesight came back. It's an amazing story. Hawkins was, I was going to say he was an amazing man, but the truth is that he just tapped into something we can all have. He didn't do anything that isn't possible for all of us. So I encourage you to look at, you can go to YouTube probably and ask to see Hawkins recovery stories, or healing stories, and it'll probably be in there. It'll pull up some lecture that he talks about it in detail, and it's amazing how he did that. What if, the whole concept that not only am I not my thoughts, but I'm not my body. It's a vehicle. And we've assumed, we've been told, you better take care of your body. You're only going to get one. This is you. This is, and, all the advertising is talking about, how we look, and everything is about the package, right? So, but if I'm not my body, and I'm not my thoughts, who am I? Yeah. Anyway. And maybe not. Maybe that is a limiting mantra. We've been told a lot of lies under the guise of spirituality. Lots. All of that's included, but it's not necessarily who I am. What's spirit?
Yeah, good question.
Huh?
Good question.
Who made up that story?
Which answer do you want?
But we're pretty hooked to it, aren't we? And what if we're one, we truly one with infinite intelligence? We're not a separate, because spirit speaks of separateness. I am a spirit, and we've been told I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and I've said it 1,000 times, but didn't realize that I was separating myself from this one by telling myself that I was something. I am this, I am that, I am spirit, I am man, I am Canadian, I am, retired, whatever, and those I ams separate me from the possibility of the moment, being in my full potential. They're all limiting. So, the New Age is like it's another religion. You know, it's full of you know of doctrine and stories and things for us to believe that aren't really about the moment, about being here now. It's not about freedom. It's about about beliefs. So it, yeah. What do you think?
Try not to.
Yeah. You are quick. The- a lot of times, many of us have struggled with this idea of a God. You know, and where's my, how does that fit together? You've been on that path.
Yeah, I used to be on that path, but I've never liked religion. I mean, I did when I was a kid. My grandpa was a minister, and I learned a lot from him. And then my down spiral with my addictions was right after he passed away, when I was in grade 6. And I cursed God then, like God. And for me, that was the end of religion. When I got sober and started learning about spirituality, and that you can have that, just like the what you talk about of letting go, and I just let go of that resentment against God. I sat the first time since my grandpa's funeral. I sat on his grave and I forgave him and God and myself all at the same time. And I walked away from that feeling, like you said, lighter.
Mm-hmm.
I let go of that resentment. And then, yeah, I just love to stay. I just love to be in the moment. I went to school. I just finished school last year for engineering, and engineering taught me to know everything. But it works directly against my spirituality or my recovery and letting everything go. So trying to find that balance between.
You'd be what we call a recovered engineer.
Yeah, it's a struggle some days, but it's just being open to the language of the heart is one of the greatest things that I've learned. And to be able to just accept what someone else is saying and what someone else believes. It doesn't mean I have to believe it. It doesn't mean that I have to jump into it. But it doesn't mean I don't have to learn it. Or, maybe it is. Maybe that's what I need to connect, right? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's I learn a lot sometimes just by sitting back and listening.
Nice. I'm glad you're here. I think that having a crew of like-minded people that are, able to see ourselves. I think it's so. It can be so easy to go into complaint or into judgment or into fear or into all the symptoms of living in the past or the future. That it's nice that when those of us who are wanting to live in the moment, to be present and be here now. I think us being together is good. Fuck, it's hard to talk about, isn't it? Excuse me. It's it's really hard to because even calling it good, it is a judgment and a separation. So anyway, I yeah, that's the deal. Nate, anything to add? Anything going on?
No, come at me, bro. I would get a kick out of trying to describe what being present in the present moment feels like. Or again, I find myself to say, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my body. So I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, and I'm not a spirit. So I get a kick out of the runaround terminology that gets brought up when we try to describe what it actually means to feel, the presence of God. The present moment, it actually frustrates the hell. It's a huge runaround. It's a little indescribable. There's so many different terms for this, for our existence. But it's a good feeling. And I think that feeling is the most important thing. It's the only way that I could describe, the sense of being a spirit, or being spiritually connected, or feel like I'm in conscious contact with God, is to say it's a good feeling. It's a feeling that's better than any other feeling that I could possibly describe to you. Words fail just to describe that type of thing.
Isn't it? Yeah, really.
It becomes a semantic battle. People trying to be smarter than somebody else and force their beliefs on somebody else and explain something that can't really be.
Mm-hmm.
Hallowed be thy name.
So this idea that God is either everything or he's nothing includes all of the, even the doctrine and the religions and it includes it all, and which is frees us up from judging who's right or who's wrong or there isn't, I get it, but no way to talk about it. And also, when I find myself wanting it in some way, it's coming from ego, because ego wants to, really wants to know what's in it for me. So there's all this God business. What's in it for you? Or that's me talking to me, right? And then I'm back in the conversation, which is not in the moment. I'm back listening to my cunning, baffling, and powerful, devious, crazy mind. Right, Matt? Mm-hmm. Kath, anything that you want to share before we meditate?
I'm good.
Yeah, you did. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We're back.
Yes, good to be here.
Yeah.
So good.
That's a nice feeling. We're in a bubble. This is our bubble tonight. Toby? No? You good? Yeah. Awesome. Free. Sister?
Feeling freer than I have in a couple of weeks. Thank goodness. I have been on quite a journey in the last couple of weeks. Was listening to Muji the last couple of days for a lot of hours because I was drowning and felt like I had the albatross of ego just killing me. And one of the women that came up to him shared that she had been in a place of release and letting go and acceptance, and I had been, and she said, and now to be in this state of ego, the ego is stinky, and so having had some freedom and some relief and feeling of oneness and connectedness, and somehow got into some thought patterns and hooked in. My ego hooked into that and got hooked into some big judgment and picked up some old resentments and suffering and struggling and I was dying, like literally really, really struggling, dying, like scared for my sanity, dying over the last couple of weeks. And the thing, and Muji was so gentle with her and said, yes, when it comes back, it's even stinkier than it was when we were in denial that we had it. Because we've had those, and so it was, because then I had judgment about being in a state that I didn't want to be in, and man, what a trip. But thank goodness that there are ways to get back to more sense of freedom, closer to a letting go. I had some wonderful conversations with David, and I had some amazing, vulnerable conversations with some women that I'm in a intense group in the 12-step community with, and watched a lot of Muji and a lot of other AA talks, and like, thank goodness there are tools to start letting it go again. Like, oh, right, okay. And so I can share that I'm feeling much more free and sane and peaceful and less hooked by ego. Like, it was scary, and thank goodness it's starting to fall again. Thank goodness. And community is so important for me, and so being able to reconnect with people that are on a similar, I don't know, path is semantics, in a similar place, looking for similar things, is so important to me. And so this is such a luxury. I'm so grateful to be in a room again. That's been part of my struggle, part of my judgment, part of my challenge, is being so disconnected in this time of not touching people and not being with people. And so I just feel really filled back up a little bit tonight. So thank you. Like, so grateful for every one of you. Thank you.
Fun, eh? Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty vulnerable. Sorry, I was ready. I'm okay with that.
But not visually, you know.
My voice.
Yeah.
You find that you were aware quicker of getting hit?
Sporadically, at times. New, but getting out or letting go was not, I think that community, people help, and I was so isolated for so long that I was just stuck in my own thoughts. Monkey mind.
It's interesting. The other morning, we hadn't talked in several days, and we do talk quite a bit. And we hadn't talked in several days, and my ego was saying, "Well, you must have done something," because it's all about it, right? It's all about well. Anyway, I was up. It was early in the morning. I don't know. It might have been Friday morning, and I just called her, and we ended up, we went into it, talked about it, and yes,
In it. Suffering.
and I used something my brother used to do with me 40 years ago, which is a little conversation that brought JR into the moment. So tell me, where are you right now? I'm in the kitchen, I think you're in your bare feet, making coffee. So, tell me about the kitchen, tell me about, so, and she was able to come into the space, So rather than going into discussing the details of the problems, which is, dangerous territory to be in there, I'm not going in there. And I just used a little process to, bring her into the moment, not to fix anything. Just be here, and then into the living room, sit on the chair, and we were just there together. Like the world stopped, and we just had this amazing conversation, which was now, and that's where, love is. That's where God is. That's where God's not in the past or the future or in the problems or in the solutions. Of course, if he is in a way, but our access, our connection is in the moment. It's in the now. It's it's not even an access. It's not our realization, because there's nothing. We're not separate that we need to be accessing. It's just when we're here, we are one. We've always been one, but our realization of that is there. And so it's beautiful. And that's what I think happens in meditation is we can be conscious of being one. Sometimes it happens in extreme sports. I love that, triple black diamond run on the snowboard. You got to be there, right? Yeah. You really got to be present. And, jumping out of an airplane. Anybody ever jumped out of an airplane? Just, yeah. You're present, right? It's like, holy shit. All I could remember thinking was, ah. But at the same, the alcohol and drugs sometimes would bring us into the moment. That's why they call it spirits. But the trouble with that is it'll eventually kill us. We get, we're pigs, right? We go in deep. And there's lots of things that bring us into the moment. Prayer brings us into the moment. Meditation can, bring us into the moment. Sometimes mowing the lawn. One of us has got to do it soon. And it can bring us into the moment, Dancing, yes. Yeah, we can be there. But I've also been dancing and in my head. Totally, or not even there at all. I'm especially being in Bali, I go to ecstatic dance and have moments of bliss, but also have moments of, worrying about my business at home or, just totally not there. So, yeah, gratitude. Yeah, thank you. It was Mooji that turned me on to a million thank yous, not for anything. Just thank you. Just a million thank yous. Not thank you for my health or thank you for anything. Just thank you. It's beautiful, and it lifts us up. It's a higher vibration. I love Hawkins' scale because, my experience is that when I hang out with Ram Dass or Mooji or Eckhart Tolle, or I go to a meeting in the 12-step world, I'm affected by the vibration of those people, and I'm lifted up. So, like when you were, down in guilt and shame and fear and anger and, desire and, fucking world, self-pity, that's reasonably low, vibrationally. That's like, people jump off of bridges, and it just takes a little love sometimes to lift somebody up. A phone call, just a phone call. How you doing? And they're, they may interpret it as somebody cares, but it's the love that actually lifts us up. So with Mooji, it's cool. Loretta, before you take off anywhere, how anything you want to say? Tell us about. Oh, come on, a little bit. Anything that was this any, good for you? Or it's good for you. It's good for me.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you for.
I'm a bit uncomfortable sitting here, so I'm moving around a lot.
Is it? Yeah, you can just lay down.
At night when we meditate,
Yeah. Yeah, just sprawl out. That's a beautiful bed, isn't it? Yeah, I've slept on it a few times. So yeah, it's cool. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you came back. Thank you.
Yeah, I went upstairs to take some.
Hmm?
I went upstairs to take some meds for my pain.
No, but I mean, I'm glad you came back tonight. I know you went home. And, yeah, thank you. Barry, before we meditate, anything?
No. I'm glad to be here. To meet each one of you. And yeah, I don't have any thoughts on it, but I feel present here. suppose that's why I don't have any doubts.
Barry and I have been, you know, we have the language that we're able to talk about this, and not from a place of learning, but from a place of experiencing, and so we have some wonderful conversations. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Bringing your energy and and the work you do in our men's group is you know, lifts up, you know, a lot of people. You know, Hawkins talks about vibration, and he said one person at 500, you know, in his scale can lift up, you know, thousands of people in a way. You know, it balances the whole planet, and from an energy, you know, the way he put his scale together is amazing, and yeah. So I think that you know, we feel called to this work. If we feel called to awakening, recognize that it affects a lot of people. You know, we can lift up. You know, not that we're doing it for that. It just is. I think, you know, I don't know. It's hard to say because there's this little component that we call grace. You know, whether this was my idea or not. Do you know what I mean? And because if I'm one with divine, if we're all one with divine, so then we're all God's idea. And but ego likes to think that it was our idea. That goes a little deep, doesn't it? Yeah, when I go in there, it's like, oh gosh, I don't know, talking about all that. Yeah, you know, it's like talking about time, but we're not going to go there. Cool. So we're going to meditate. I know it's been a while, but and I think that if we get really comfortable, and for those of you that are watching, find a comfortable spot, and we're probably only going to sit for about 10 minutes, but I'll do about 3 minutes of kind of an intro, or trying, you know, to help us get into a space, and I know sometimes people have no experience in meditation, and it's like, you know, kind of like Greek to us, and in the 12-step world, you know, step 11, it talks about prayer and meditation, and yet we don't do much in the 12-step world to help people to understand what that is, you know, or to get there. And it talks about meditation a couple of times in the book, but we're not in the program. We don't talk a lot about it or help people to get there, do we? I've been invited several times over to Sunrise to teach a little bit, or to, you know, talk about meditation and do a little meditating with some of the people who are in the treatment center, and that's, you know, I mean, yeah, it's neat to be able to do it. And so anyway, you guys are there, and we're going to sit, meditate, and get yourself comfortable. And part of the process is, you know, I'm going to speak a little bit, and my speaking will just be to bring you into this moment, to bring you into here, and watch the mind, just watch it, you know, as it does what it does. Because when you're sitting and you've closed your eyes and you're in a comfortable spot, and you have both your feet on the floor, you know, I mean, you don't have to put both your feet on the floor, but if you like to, it gives us a bit of a grounding, and we feel our feet, you know, we feel ourselves in our body, you know, and can experience our body. We spend a lot of time in our head. You know, most of our life is spent above our shoulders, And so, just feel the body. It's beautiful. It's just amazing. What a gift. It's perfectly tuned. We are perfect. I was with somebody today and he said, I'm not perfect yet. And I said, oh, you are. And maybe we're all perfect. Maybe we're all perfect in this moment. And there's nothing missing. And our bodies are perfect, even if they hurt a little bit. Or they're trying to tell us something. Yeah, just be in it and, be grateful for it and feel it. Feel our shoulders. Take a few deep breaths. We'll just go in with the breath. One of the things with the breath is that breath brings us into the moment. If we're here with the breath, we're not somewhere else. We're here with the breath. You can just breathe in, breathe out. Just feel the breath in the body. Sometimes mind says, yes, but if I'm doing that, I can't be thinking. It's okay. Be here with the breath. So we're going to do a little something as we meditate. And let's just watch the mind. If thoughts come, if they don't come, that's fine. There's nothing to watch. If thoughts come, just recognize that you are not your thoughts. We're not even sure where they come from. But often they march in with a lot of authority, telling you they know what's going on. Just watch them. Practice non-attachment, awareness. The beginning of freedom is realizing that we are not our minds. We are not our thoughts. We are the observer, and we're also observing the observer, so it goes back a long way. So we'll just be with the observer today. Thank you. I was sitting here meditating, and the thought came 3 or 4 times. I didn't set a timer. And the universe, in the form of JR, looked after the timer. Isn't,
It was,
well,
went quick.
it did go quick. Well, you guys, I don't know. I feel like I kind of ended up talking a lot, but thank you, for being here and you know, it's hard in a way. I think this comes to me a lot. How do I share? Be here now. And because it's all starts there. It can't start anywhere else. It doesn't come from a belief. It doesn't come from a doctrine. It just be here. And when we're present, we see ourselves. And eventually, I believe the possibility, my experience has been that through seeing myself in my, in my fear and in my anger and in my, to see that part of me, and being present for that allowed me to let it go and move into this other experience, this other realization. So, that's I believe the bottom line is be here now. Practice being present, aware, conscious. Sheila used to say, awareness, acceptance, change. So with awareness and then accepting whatever's happening, because as soon as I go against it, as soon as I say, oh, this is shit, or, I'm so stupid. I should be better than this. I'm holding it in place. I'm so awareness, acceptance, change. I don't know what time it is, but thank you. I think, what time is it? Yeah. Okay, thank you, you guys. Thanks for coming tonight and, for bringing your love. And we're going to hopefully come back. We're here next week. And I do think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Could we have 10? Yeah, I think without being, breathing each other's air too much, we could. Yeah, we could. Sure, we could.
I think that's we used to get 12, 13.
Yeah. So yeah, I think if we had 12, we'd be within the realm of abiding by the fears of the. I'm not even going to go there. So, but yeah. So if you want to come and bring a friend or talk it up a bit, and we could have that. That would be great. And also, I'm available, to talk. One gets a little stuck anywhere during the week, to be part of that, of the solution. I'm a call, and we can sail together. Yeah. So.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming, you guys, and thank you guys for coming, and check us out on YouTube. And, YouTube. And we do a little thing every morning, a little reading and a little chat every morning at about. It used to be like I was really, really rigid around 9 o'clock. Now, if I can do it before noon, I'm okay. It's loosened up a lot. So in the morning, every day, we do a reading, and either on Facebook Live or YouTube. Okay. Cheers. Love you guys. I'm going to let you go. Thanks so much. Bye.